A second of the Malala River victims has been identified. The remains of 7 women were found late last month and early this month near Malala. Victim number 2 was 26-year-old Maureen Hodges. She lived at the Fairfield Hotel in southwest Portland and had an arrest record for shoplifting. She was 5 feet 8, 135 pounds. Clackamas County Sheriff spokesman Russ Williams says Hodges was identified through dental records. He says more identifications should be made very soon.
I understand there's at least 1 or 2 more sets of dental records there and other ones coming in from possible victims or of missing persons.
Williams says if you have any information about Hodges, contact the Clackamas County Sheriff's Department. The only other victim to be identified is Lisa Mock Holden.
3 migrant farm workers died early this morning in a house fire about 4 miles west of Gaston. Gaston volunteer firefighters arrived about 1:30 this morning to find the small wooden building completely in flames. A 4th occupant of the house escaped after first trying to warn his housemates of the danger.
He did arouse them, but they got up and headed for different directions, and then we found them wherever they tried to make an exit out, which they couldn't.
Gaston's fire chief has not released the names of the victims pending notification of next of kin. A 3-alarm fire drove occupants from a northwest Portland apartment building early this morning. 8 tenants of the building escaped without injury and have found temporary housing. One firefighter was injured slightly fighting the blaze, which investigators say started when a pan was left on a stove burner.
Oregon's civil defense drill has been pared down from a nuclear disaster to a serious emergency. Pro-peace and environmental groups, though, are still not happy. Eric Mason of our Willamette Valley Bureau looks at the fallout from an exercise that looks at Oregon pushed to the brink of war.
In the scenario created by the federal government, the world is being pushed to the brink of war. While U.S. military installations are put on alert, the Soviets are accused of giving nuclear weapons to Argentina. In Oregon, the mock drill goes on to simulate increased tension. Here at Kingsley Field in Klamath Falls, demonstrators are to block roads, and fire bombings occur at oil terminals in Coos Bay, according to the scenario. In Salem, emergency management officials listened this morning as mock news reports on the incidents flowed into the office. Their job is to test local readiness to respond to emergencies as the international tensions mount. Emergencies like gasoline, food hoarding, and traffic jams as people leave the city. While the feds deleted references to nuclear explosions as requested by Governor Goldschmidt, activists who rallied outside the Capitol today said the premise of the exercise is the same.
That this is madness, that there is no survival after a nuclear attack. And I think we also have to say, if there is survival, quite frankly, I don't want to be part of it.
Our reaction is that even if there were anything left to report after a massive nuclear laydown of the type proposed by FEMA, we would have problems to worry about that would be far more serious than whether our telephones work.
Activists also did not like being linked to what they referred to as terrorist activities in the scenario. Emergency management planners said those references were deleted, but that the drill had to go on.
Well, it has no nuclear detonation in it. The first scenario had Oregon and Washington, Idaho, and Alaska blanketed by nuclear explosions, and that was not acceptable. And the change is that we are not reporting any kind of nuclear explosion whatsoever. It's a readiness drill.
Officials of FEMA say without preparedness, there is no hope in any disaster. State officials want to keep their funding and are complying for now. During the next 3 days, the mock world tension will continue in the basement of the Capitol. The political fallout may be as unnerving as the real thing. Eric Mason, Newsroom 6, Willamette Valley Bureau.
Roadblocks for drunk drivers are unconstitutional, so ruled Oregon's most powerful court today. The Oregon Supreme Court ruled that police roadblocks to check for drunk drivers violate the provision for unreasonable search and seizure. In a 5-2 decision, the court said that before officials embark on a search or seizure of evidence, they must have individualized suspicion of wrongdoing. The court reaffirmed the need for a warrant. State police officials who have been unable to use the roadblock since the Court of Appeals ruling last year say they have lost an important tool in stopping the drunk driver. State officials say the roadblocks were a deterrent and kept traffic deaths down.
Catholic schools, are they heading toward extinction? We'll look at that question next.
And you'll hear the impressions of some Portlanders who had a high-tech meeting with the pontiff today.
The stain stops here. It's Trevera, the ultimate in stain-resistant carpet, warranted for 5 full years. And at Postal today, all Trevera carpets are on sale. 226 selections in the newest stylings and fashion shades. Even this lush Saxony is on sale today at almost half price for just $7.99 a square yard. And the stain stops here at all 3 Paulson stores.
Tonight at 8 o'clock, many Oregon school children and their parents and district officials will know what the rest of the school year is likely to hold financially. It's election day and 31 districts are asking for more money. Most of the voting is by mail, and Multnomah County elections officials will count the ballots of the David Douglas and Gresham High School districts. Both have curtailed school programs and busing because of a lack of money. A no vote could mean a cancellation of programs, say district officials. The same is true in the Hillsborough High District. Election officials say if you live in a district and did not mail it in, you can deliver it to election offices before 8. We'll have results tonight on our 11 o'clock report.
America's new immigration law is getting an in-person inspection from some Mexican dignitaries. They're here as guests of the U.S. government. They plan to spread the word about that law in Mexico. Peter Murphy was with them today as they toured Hood River. He reports they're giving the law mixed reactions.
When migrant workers leave Mexico for fields in the United States, the Mexican government doesn't forget about them. In fact, they're the subject of at least one study that's gone on for 15 years. Since the new immigration law hit the books, the Mexican government has taken an increased interest in their welfare and sent a team of researchers to Oregon to learn more about the lifestyle of migrant workers. Up to this point, the new immigration law that lets foreign workers into this country has received mixed reviews from those people living north of the border. Now it's undergoing review from countrymen of the people who come from south of the border.
A lot of the people that we have come through our office live in Mexico most of the year or half of the year, and then they come here to work.
4 Mexican dignitaries have come to Oregon and other parts of the country as guests of the U.S. Information Agency. One is a professor, the others are journalists. While their tour isn't finished, they've begun to develop a feel for how the Mexican people view the new U.S. law.
There has been some disinformation and some confusion that the governments are not very working closely as they should do in this matter.
When he returns to Mexico, Castro will write his views in an editorial which will appear in the second most widely read paper in the country. One of his compatriots will spend more time developing a perspective that may become part of the official government view.
So there are some discriminatory things that we see there, that we foresee, that it is difficult to say that's going to happen right now, but that's something that we feel that might happen, that is very likely to happen in the future.
In balance, Inosa says some employers have stepped forward to help their workers.
Some employers have been actually protecting their employees, and they have been imposed pressure on not only the Congress, well, that was before, but now they're taking, their own steps to facilitate the process of legalization. So that, I think, in that sense, I think that's something that it wasn't expected, and the law doesn't provide, make provisions for that. But that's something.
Even as this group tours Oregon's fields, the Oregon Farm Bureau is running a final tally on how many workers arrived in the state to harvest crops. Word is that most were harvested, but because it took longer than usual, the Farm Bureau reports that farmers' income was much lower than it could have been. I'm Peter Murphy reporting for Newsroom 6.
Oregon Lottery's lucky number is 9. Tomorrow morning at that time, state officials will ink the contract that will make Oregon a player in a 7-state lottery, including the District of Columbia. When the lottery starts, there is potential for 16.5 million players. Converted to dollars, the potential for grand prizes is even greater than that.
We'll have more news for you when you return to Newsroom 6, so stay with us.
First-time riders, gotta treat them kind of special. Help them with fares, directions, how to transfer. We take thousands of folks to work every day, scout troops to the zoo, and a whole lot of people shopping. Heck, it's just our job, and it's a good way to meet interesting folks.
Bus Rose Garden?
Yes, it is. Come on in.
Try TriMet. For your free How to Ride kit, call us 223-RIDE. This is Les Schwab. If you want to save money on tires, you've come to the right sale.
The Les Schwab Fall Tire Sale. The best time of the year to buy tires. Tires for work, tires for play. High performance to all seasons. Les Schwab's Fall Tire Sale is the one you've been waiting for. Sale prices on custom wheels, gas shocks, and batteries, too. Backed in writing with the Les Schwab warranty. The warranty you don't pay extra for.
Anyone who needs tires should shop this sale.
There is an effective treatment for menopause, and a lot of women don't know about it. Dr. Dean Adele does know about it, and he says you may have to go shopping to find that treatment.
When women reach the menopause, they can begin a series of trying and difficult changes. And they also enter an arena of great medical debate on how to treat menopausal symptoms. These two headlines from the same medical magazine tell the story. One advises only conservative use of the hormone estrogen to control hot flashes. The other says that estrogen's risks are outweighed by its benefits and that almost all women should take them. Well, who should you believe? Now, estrogens do have side effects, but doctors feel they've come up with other hormones that they can add to counter those side effects. I have to be honest, though. I get uncomfortable when we physicians decide that all women should be on any medication. I trust Mother Nature more than that, and we've been fooled many times in the past in medicine. We think we know more than Mother Nature. The nice thing would be if somebody could come up with a non-hormonal way of controlling hot flashes, which after all are the most annoying symptom of the menopause. This University of Texas study may have found the answer. Instead of the hormone estrogen, the researchers used a drug called clonidine. It's a high blood pressure medication. They gave the women this drug through a skin patch so it's absorbed right into their skin. The results for treating hot flashes speak for themselves. 80% of women had fewer hot flashes. 73% said the ones they had were less severe, and 67% said they were shorter. So if you just have hot flashes and you don't want to take estrogens, you might want to talk to your doctor about clonidine. I'm Dr. Dean Adele.
Coming up next, Rick has his sports report ready.
And another ex-trailblazer has found a job.
Ron Culp resigned last spring, said he wanted to do something else and just be a trainer for the Portland Trailblazers, and he found just his cup of tea.
Great. We'll be right back.
The National Football League Players Association said today it presented management with a new proposal that addresses the critical issues necessary to avert a walkout. Unless an agreement is hammered out soon, the players are set to go on strike 1 week from today.
It doesn't take a genius or a Harvard graduate to realize that right now this is going nowhere. And 25 minutes sitting in meetings and then getting up without saying anything, making a bold statement by the way they buckled their briefcases as they left.
Doesn't sound good, does it? Oregon quarterback Bill Musgrave has been named the Pac-10's Offensive Player of the Week for leading the Ducks to that upset win over Colorado. But the Duck defense now faces a more formidable task than the one presented by the Buffaloes. Saturday, it's how to stop the fifth-ranked Buckeyes of Ohio State.
We've got to do a good job in the line of scrimmage, and we had some holes in there against Colorado. We hope to be more aggressive at the point of attack. We'll have to be against a powerful Ohio State team.
The top 20 released today by the Associated Press finds Oklahoma still #1, and with 54 of the 60 first-place votes, Nebraska gets the other 6, followed by Auburn, LSU, and the Duck opponent. Miami of Florida is #6, then come Florida State, Clemson, Notre Dame. Washington makes the top 10. UCLA is 1-1, but they're still #13, and Arizona State is ranked #15 this week. Friday, the Portland Trailblazers hold their annual fall golf tournament. It's kind of an unofficial start of the season, a season that will mark a familiar face missing from the sidelines. 17 years can go quickly. Just ask Ron Culp. He spent most of 2 decades serving as trainer to some of the world's highest paid and skilled athletes. Most of that time came with a sideline seat at the Coliseum as trainer of the Portland Trailblazers. That is until last spring, when he announced a desire to seek new challenges. Do you miss those 6 a.m. wake-up calls on the road?
No, I won't. And I won't miss worrying about the 80 pieces of luggage, and I won't miss people saying I didn't pack my sneakers, and things like that I won't miss.
Culp has taken a job as an administrator at St. Vincent Hospital. His assignment, to build rehabilitation programs for orthopedic patients and structure a sports medicine division as well. It's just the challenge he had envisioned.
Trying to be as progressive as we can. We're going to be looking around the country at different orthopedic programs around the country, as well as sports medicine programs around the country. And we're going to take from each of those what we feel to be the most appropriate and the best components and put them together here into a comprehensive program.
Colt knows it will take time to build a top-notch program, but he certainly can plug plenty of personal experience into the planning computer, although he'll still miss those squeaking shoes and the roar of the enthusiastic crowd.
And I'm sure that once the games start and the traveling starts, I'm sure that I'll miss that. But you know, it was an important part. It was 17 years of my life, but I think this is going to be a big part of it.
Culp hopes to build a program that will be something to cheer about as well. I'm sure he'll do a good job. Management of the Toronto Blue Jays may have to make out a quick requisition form to obtain baseballs for tonight's game with the Baltimore Orioles. You see, their supply was severely damaged last night. Take, for example, the damage done by Ernie Whitt. He had the Oriole pitchers at wit's end, belting not one, not two, but 3 home runs on the night. Rance Mulliniks did his best to keep pace, but he could only manage 2 home runs on the night. And George Bell, well, he could only hit 2 home runs on the night. In fact, it turned out to be a disaster for the Baltimore Orioles.
Well hit. Sheets on. That's gone too. Can you believe it?
I believe it. I'm looking at it.
I'm telling you, this is like BP.
18-3 was the final. One game played this afternoon in the major leagues, and it looked like the Cincinnati Reds were trying to equal the Toronto Blue Jays record of 10 home runs in a game because they beat Atlanta, believe it or not, 21-6. Dale Murphy of Atlanta, though, did have 2 round trippers of his own. The coming of fall means that many recreational athletes will take their workout regimens indoors. But as Jim Byrne reports, that also means it turns out to be quite a racket for the Cornell Racquet Club.
Racquetball may not be as popular as it was 10 years ago, but at the Cornell Court Club this past weekend, it was hard to tell. There were over 500 players using all 9 courts for Northwest doubles competition.
Because racquetball boomed so big in the late 70s, that now that it's just on a gradual growth trend, that people tend to forget about it. And really, racquetball is still growing. There's still clubs going up all over the country. And once racquetball hits the Far East, which it is starting to do, the Orientals will kill us at this game.
It may take the up-and-coming players from the Far East a little while, though, to figure out what it takes to excel in doubles play. Doubles in racquetball is not for the timid. It requires the agility of a wide receiver and the aggressiveness of a linebacker.
They almost move in a choreographed way. You know, all 4 players kind of move together and move around each other, and it looks amazingly dangerous, but at the top level, no one ever even gets in each other's way. It just looks that way.
With all those quick moves and those close quarters, it's a wonder no one comes out wearing a racket.
No, that's in the lower division.
In Cedar Mill, Jim Byrne, Newsroom 6 Sports.
Duck.
I think you could use the bodies as a blocking technique even, huh?
Unintentionally, I think that happens at times.
Oh, thanks, Rick. Over the next 6 years, Portland's post office will receive more than 600 new delivery vans. The first 10 units arrived this morning. Life expectancy of the new vehicles is triple that of the current fleet. It's estimated that nationwide the Postal Service will save nearly $6 billion in maintenance and repair costs. Drivers say the new rigs are safer, too.
Pope John Paul made a brief visit to Portland today via satellite. It was part of what the Vatican called Papal Space Bridge 1987. And Mark Katkoff just returned from the Space Bridge. How did it go?
Well, it was a very moving event for the people who were there, Shirley, in Civic Auditorium. It linked up 4 cities, Portland, Denver, St. Louis, and Los Angeles. The Pope is spending today in Los Angeles. There were some brief technical problems before the space bridge began, but they were solved, the gear was repaired, and the Pope was able to greet the thousands of young people in 4 cities who came to see him. In Portland, the audience was made up for the most part of students from the area's Catholic schools and youth groups. They brought gifts for the needy and their enthusiasm, which a Christian rock band brought to a boil, sweeping along even Portland's ordinarily reserved Archbishop. After a prayer offered simultaneously in 4 cities, it was time for young people to question the Pope and for the Pope to answer. John Paul had seen the questions beforehand, but his answers were not scripted. Each city was permitted 1 question. In Portland, it came from 17-year-old Jean Moreland, a senior at Central Catholic High School.
How do we continue to make sense out of our lives, even though many of our friends have given up on life?
How? Continue. Yes. I found.
The Pope spoke in halting English about the need for hope in one's life, hope provided by faith.
For resisting, it's necessary to deepen, to cultivate the hope in ourselves. How Jesus Christ? Why Jesus Christ? Not how. Why? I am not so perfect in your language.
John Paul clearly enjoyed his young audiences, and attempts by directors to keep the schedule failed as the pontiff went way over allotted time. Each city offered the pontiff a gift. Portland's was a day of service to the needy last Saturday.
I am deeply impressed by the answer and by the gift of the young people of Portland, Oregon.
And in Los Angeles, the Pope's gift came from a young disabled man who played a tune on the guitar. Originally, each city was to have at least 2 questions, but time cut that down to just 1. The Pope finished his audience with young people by blessing them in both English and in Spanish. Then he went on to Dodger Stadium, Shirley, where he's scheduled to celebrate Mass in about half an hour.
Boy, his English has gotten better. I like the way he says Portland, Oregon. It's a little bit better.
Miles Musio is going to have a forecast for Portland, Oregon and other areas of the Northwest when News from 6 continues.
Waiting for medical treatment can take a lot out of you. That's why at Woodland Park Hospital's Emergency Center, we bend over backwards to make sure a doctor or nurse sees you within 60 seconds. And thanks to Woodland Park's multi-level fee schedule, you only pay for what you need. And you won't be charged for life-saving emergency care if you're just a little wound down. If you do need more, our full-service hospital is right there to back you up, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The next time you need quality emergency care, head for Woodland Park.
The best selection, the best prices, and the best after-sales service we can offer has made Bill Ollinger the largest Lincoln Mercury dealer in the Northwest. These Sable LS 4-doors with high levels of equipment are just $13,888 after rebate. And with factory-sponsored 1.9% financing or cash back, you can take advantage of our selection for great savings on Cougar, Topaz, Lynx, and Tracer. See our full-page ads in Friday Oregonians for more details. And come over the hill to Bill Ollinger Lincoln Mercury on Southwest Canyon Road at 93rd.
Well, we had a few showers around today, but this was the last day of precipitation. Right now it's partly cloudy outside and 63 degrees at the airport with 56% humidity. Winds out of the southwest at 7, and the pressure is real high, but it's falling from 30. And today's high temperature 64, and this morning's low 51 degrees. Getting cooler, but it's going to warm up to about the 70s going into the rest of the week and the weekend, too. 2/100 of an inch precipitation, way below still for the year. Low temperatures this morning were in the 40s, but it's going to be even cooler tomorrow morning. Some areas that were in the low 40s will be in the upper 30s come tomorrow morning, come Wednesday. It was cool down at Crater Lake, of course, at the 28. Christmas Valley also down to 28 degrees, 33 in the Bates area. High temperatures today got up into the 60s and 70s for the most part. In fact, we had no 80s to talk about. But not everybody reported, by the way, so maybe there was one stuck in there in some of the cracks. Anyway, 77 down at Medford, the warmest of all, and 60s in the Willamette Valley. We had a couple of 70s in eastern Washington. Hanford got up to 74 degrees. And this is not the 24-hour precipitation. It had some computer problems, but it is the 6-hour rainfall, and you can see they had 500 of an inch in the Vancouver area, but just to the east of there, the Bonneville Power Administration, they had a 20/100 of an inch from a thunderstorm which went through a little earlier this afternoon, 15/100 down in the Sandy area, and as you can see, paltry amount of precipitation otherwise. High pressure is pushing on in. We're getting more and more of a northerly flow. This is to become an easterly flow, which will give us offshore conditions, and of course that's dry, and it'll be somewhat of a warming trend. The showers have been in here. This is the latest radar. Just snapped this shot a few moments ago, and you can see some precipitation between Portland and Salem. Most of this is moving to the south-southeast, it appears now, at about 15-20 miles per hour. This is a ground clutter pattern right here, but a few showers continue just to the north of Portland, and they are really beginning to dissipate. The showers will be ending tonight. Continued windy through the gorge and a few snow showers. I talked to Timberline Lodge, and they did get a dusting of snow last night, not a whole lot. There will be a light freeze on the east side tonight. freeze or frost. Temperatures getting down to 28 degrees in the Bend area, right at 40 in Salem, the outlying areas into the upper 30s. And then for tomorrow, looks to be pretty nice. A few showers still right around the mountains, perhaps up in the Blues and the Wallowas, but a generally sunny day after some morning clouds and high temperatures up into the 60s and 70s. Here's what it looks like for Thursday. You can see high pressure definitely dominates. Lots of sunshine, and all those fronts that are approaching will be held to the north with high pressure. Clearing and cooler tonight, low temperature 40 to 47, 47 in town, cooler in the outlying areas. And tomorrow some brief morning clouds, then partly cloudy and pleasant with a high 70 to 74 degrees. Some fairly heavy rains around this wrapped up low pressure system here. In fact, it will probably continue. We'll be seeing thunderstorms from Missouri all the way down into Texas. High temperatures today got up into the 80s and 70s for the most part. Coolest in the northeast, and as you can see, no hundreds in the southwest. This is what we're expecting as far as the marine forecast for tomorrow. Looks to be fairly nice. Winds out of the northwest up to 30, but those swells up to 14 feet. And the outdoors outlook looks to be fairly good. Green light, excellent conditions tomorrow with a freezing level going up to 9,000 feet. Here's the Long Ranger. Looks to be good next week, up into the 80s once again.
Summer keeps coming back, doesn't it?
Sure.
Thanks, Miles.
Earlier in this newscast, we posed the question, are Catholic schools headed for extinction? Well, Mark Sanchez, reporter for Newsroom 6, attended Catholic grade school and high school, and he's been looking at this question. Mark, what have you found?
Well, in a word, Mike, will they go extinct? No, of course they will not go extinct. It's a much different situation, and it's changing the way the Catholic Church is changing. You saw from the Space Bridge teleconference that the Pope basically urged a much more forceful, positive kind of activity on the part of Catholics, asking them to basically live their faith, to not simply live by faith alone, to put their faith into a horizontal commitment of ministry. As far as the education goes, Catholic education in Oregon goes back to 1843. It is a far-flung enterprise in an archdiocese that extends from California to Washington, from the Pacific Ocean to the Cascades, and like the church that nurtured it, the Catholic educational system in Oregon has never been static.
How many cubic centimeters in here?
It took a case from Oregon to ensure that Phil Brady could ask that question in a Catholic school or any private school. In 1922, Governor Walter Pierce rallied the support of the Ku Klux Klan in passing the Oregon Compulsory School Bill. This monument to anti-Catholic sentiment dictated that all children must attend public school. Archbishop Alexander Christie challenged the Oregon law. He died only a few weeks before the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in his favor in 1925.
Okay, he's going to look at the issue between the Central American refugees coming to the United States and how the church reaches out to them.
Today, more than 10,000 children attend Catholic school in the Archdiocese. For the state of Oregon to replace these 8 high schools and 42 elementary schools, to staff them and to run them, could cost the state of Oregon $80 million. For parents, sending a child to Catholic school is a financial burden. Tax credits don't exist, so yearly tuition is money straight out of pocket. At the grade school level, it averages $900. It's $2,000 for a high school student like Shannon Oxley.
I went to a public school for half my life, and I liked the private school education and the people.
Even with non-Catholics filling 15% of the desks, Catholic school just isn't the same anymore. Enrollment here is off 40% since 1975. Your chances of finding a priest or a nun in the classroom are no better than 1 in 5. In fact, the only religious faculty you'll see at Madeline School is the principal, Sister Rosalie Orr. Adding to the cost, the shift of families to the suburbs, leaving many inner-city parishes with expensive, underutilized schools to support.
I think that some of that came also with the question of the economy in Oregon. When it came down to the basic essentials, one had to make a choice between education and that, and the actual, food and that sort of thing.
This never-changing church has always been changing, and it will continue to change. And change comes with pain.
Mike Devaney knows about pain. He left the priesthood this year to marry Kathleen Bergquist. Devaney wants to be a married priest but can't. He wants to teach as well in a Catholic school, but his applications went nowhere. Ultimately, Devaney believes that Catholic education, like his church, will continue to evolve.
The schools that do survive are going to have to be schools that are plugged into the life of the parish.
What is it, 80-90% of the Catholic kids don't go to Catholic schools, and that the money has to be spent there. If the youth are the future of the church, and I think they are,
And we got to start putting our money where our mouth is.
Even the local director of Catholic education sees a continued trend of fewer schools, but a sustained commitment to Catholic education and greater ministry outside the classroom.
When the Vatican Council said that the church was the people, the involvement of the people in the church in a more real sense is there as well. So the commitment is a more horizontal commitment. It's a wider and larger.
And as we've seen, Catholic education is certainly changing, but a lot of it is falling below the threshold of public awareness. Mike?
Thanks for your research, Mark. Very interesting. Coming up, a Ray Summers story. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Evergreen Court on the beautiful Southern Oregon coast. Evergreen Court has lifestyle options for independent seniors. Each luxury apartment features a living room, dining room, and full kitchen. Evergreen Court overlooks the international port of Coos Bay. Living is relaxed and secure. Visit Evergreen Court this Sunday, September 20th, during their open house celebration. Call Evergreen Court today for a free brochure or more information regarding the open house.
Yeah, it's just a ding. Well, I can still see. Who cares?
Speedy does, because your windshield's only a foot from your face.
This year, over 1 million Americans will give up their box springs for this mattress. America the Beautiful Dreamer has been authorized to sell a limited number of these Soma mattresses at special test market prices as low as $199. Plus, offer 12 months free finance. It features the comfort of a waterbed, adjustable firmness, and it'll convert your regular bed to a waterbed. Most of our buyers never dreamed they'd be sleeping on a waterbed. Now they wouldn't sleep without it. And remember, prices start at just $199 with 12 months free financing, but only at America the Beautiful Dreamer.
The Toyota Tag Sale. Now only $11,750 for 7-passenger vans at Broadway Toyota.
And finally tonight, there are questions which never get answered. If you wonder what questions fall into that category for reporter-at-large Ray Summers, you're about to find out.
There are things which I see which I do not understand. An example. 163 miles from the ocean, behind a few juniper trees, sails someone's private navy. Whenever I see something such as this, I wonder if they know something I do not. I can understand the flag, but why is there a plastic horse nesting up there with it? It symbolizes something of that I am quite certain. I am not certain what. Barrels among the trees. Well, I guess we understand that. But doesn't anyone build old-fashioned chicken coops anymore? People wish to be alone. I accept that. That's why they move out here. But why do they put up big signs to call attention to that fact? And why do some folk take the time to build a curiosity, to attract my attention with their whatsits, when my attention isn't really needed? Now, this caught my attention. A rock business. But would it happen to my car if I stopped to shop? Beneath the spreading leafing tree, the bowling pins do stand. Why? I don't know. Likewise, plastic figures, squirrel, and ducks, and a frog, and pink flamingos. Not a yard, a cemetery. Signs and distances give me troubles, too. Sign back there says 64 miles to Winnemucca. The one just ahead of it says 71 miles to Winnemucca. Very short 7 miles there. And this one over here, this one says 70 miles. I ask you, don't the sign painters read each other's signs? But even more distant from that city is this cabin made of logs. A lonely spot, undoubtedly. But just how lonely I wasn't certain until I saw... Well, I guess I understand. Ray Summers at large.
I don't.
Great curiosity, Ray Summers. Tonight at 11, we hope to answer more of your questions about the second Malala victim.
And we'll have more on the Oregon State employees strike. They're set to go on strike in about 6 hours. We'll tell you what that means to you. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
You could be the one to win on KOIN TV.
The Toyota Tag Sale. Now only $81.50 for Corolla Deluxe sedans at Broadway Toyota.
See the Garfield Magic Show at Clackamas Town Center on Tuesday and Wednesday. Fun for the entire family. Garfield live and in person. Amazing magic tricks. Catch the Garfield Magic.